Hello, testing, testing. Just going to sit here and wait a little bit longer for some more people, and if no one shows up, we're just gonna get started. I don't know, you tell me where the rest of the people's peeps at. I'll give them like maybe 2 minutes to try to trickle in, but if otherwise not, I will start with yours and then we'll do with it as we will. I have recorded the tutorial, I just haven't finished editing it. My bad, but it will come in tandem with all of what we're talking about today, considering everyone seems to have trouble with perspective and figures. Yes, so some things we can talk about how like the challenge and how to make the challenge feel a little bit more natural for gesture drawings, because I feel like technically there is no right way to do gesture, but there are a couple of shapes that you typically use when you're doing gesture drawings that might make your gesture drawings feel more fluid and more less awkward. Let's see, I have three things. Seems like you and Greta is gonna take the longest time for crit because y'all have a lot of stuff to go over. I know, I was shook. I was like, damn, Jesse actually cared about my mental health today. So yeah, we can start with yours first. No big deal, just let me know how the audio is, if it's too loud anyway, anyhow. Okay, so in terms of perspective, I think it's fun to have it where you're somewhat seeing it from the top, so this would be fun. This is fine. We're just going to draw some guidelines so you have an idea of like how everything else should be placed so that it makes sense. Let's use a different color so you can actually see. So you're going to decide which one you want to use as a reference point. Do you want to use the table as your reference for like this is how tilted or how high the angle is, or do you want to use the shelf? So if we're talking about you want to be able to see all the objects on the table because it is supposed to be your playmat, we can use your table as a reference. So this would, you know, hypothetically make your horizon line much higher than whatever it is. Let's see. And then I don't imagine that you have another really close vanishing point, which would make your table like this. So I probably expect that your table's probably somewhat really far away like that. So you don't have to do like a lot of guidelines. It's just enough. So your table right here is not going to have too much distortion. It's the when you get farther away from the table, that's typically where you would have the distortion. So here it's going to go flatter because we're going to suppose that the vanishing point is like so far away. I believe in Clip Studio you can create like a vanishing point grid line for yourself. I just don't have that on Photoshop. Let me see if they do have it. They might have it, I just don't ever use it. It might be helpful, so just, I believe the grid is going to ask you like what kind of perspective you want to use and where you want to place the vanishing point, so just place one like super far away here. But typically for this kind of pose you can kind of eyeball it, so typically it's going to go relatively parallel in your focal point area, and then it's going to get less and less parallel. So you're going to see over here along your shelf already like some perspective issues are happening. And then let's see, you're kind of imagining that maybe your eye level would be this top shelf, right? Which is why we don't see as much the top. Okay, let me draw these other ones first. And same idea, it's gonna be more distorted as we get farther away to give the illusion that, hey, it's curving away from us. Hello! Starting with Jesse's first because you showed up late, so. And then let's use one more different color just so we can see everything should still be this way. I'm gonna change the color of this just a little bit because it is a little bit dark. Okay, so imaginary, this is how supposedly everything is going to sit. So let's fiddle a little bit with this top layer right here because it kind of seems like we're not on the right perspective for some of this. It's kind of working, also kind of not. Might just have to do this by hand. Okay. So using our guide, we're gonna make sure all the shelves are facing that direction. Same for all the books. Yes. Okay, just pretend I didn't accidentally warp it. I just can't get it to work for me. But we're using those guides that we just put down in order to make sure that the books are in the right perspective. I might, if these are truly books, or I don't know if they're just boxes or something, if they're books, maybe some different heights, different shapes for books. 8:51 a.m. Yeah, perfect morning. Deck boxes? Okay, so they're just boxes then, yeah, like ignore what I just said. We can keep it like this. Shoot. And then there probably is going to be some overlapping happening with the shelves. Because hypothetically your bookshelf is like what? Tilted like this? Or is it straight like this? If it's tilted, maybe you won't have as much overlap compared to this. I know, he's like slacking. Where's his Animu baby? Animu elves. So if the back is like this, we're going to make sure it's consistent for all the way through. And then these are, I don't know if they're like posters, flyers, whatever they are, they still will stack more like these boxes rather than like this. So you can draw the general shape of it first, like that, and then create the like the individual, you know. And let's decide how tall the horizon should be. I think if you're looking at this perspective, the horizon is basically like right over here. So your eye level is like right over here. So you're really not gonna get any boxes being hidden that well. So I'm gonna actually bring back some of the tops of these boxes according to the perspective grids that we've created. So that it's gonna feel more like it's part of it. So until you see past this edge right here, you're not gonna get very flat things like this. And then just adjust a little bit on the bottoms right here too. And then to spice things up, sometimes you might not want the boxes to be so perfect. So once you kind of have a general idea of like where they should line up, you can kind of offset some of them. So some of them can be like closer to each other. So maybe you can have some that are like that, like right next to each other. You can even have one where it's like, oh, maybe someone took one out and it's missing one, just to give it a little more character and more interest, so it's not always, you know, just the same old, same old. You can even have some where they're like slightly turned. So slightly turned, so instead of being right here, maybe you can have one that's like that. So that's no longer gonna follow the perspective grid as perfectly, but as long as you're kind of showing a little bit, showing enough of it. If it's hard for you to do that, you can always like take this one. And let's see if we can rotate it. I don't know if that's how you rotate. Is it skew? No. Okay, well, if you can't do it like that, you can always take a box, like just a box that you have. It could just be like a tissue box, it can be like an Amazon box or something, and then just put yourself in that same perspective and turn it so you can have an idea of like, are you doing enough? So, I mean, you don't have to put a full Boba elf, you can just put little elf. Do a cameo elf. That's an option. And then let's fix the perspective of your cards. Let's see, lizard. Your cards definitely need to have, I think you should make your cards bigger because they don't read very well on such a big table and they're so small. So exaggerate it a little bit. Screw things over and then offset it a little bit. I know this might not be actually how the placement of the card should be, but just for the sake of composition and for making it look interesting, you just exaggerate it just a teensy bit. Same goes for the phone. The phone's pretty tiny compared to how big the characters are. So let's fix scaling. Because you always want to kind of bring it back to the character, be like, hey, is this too big or too small? Like, okay, this looks somewhat like a reasonable size that they could potentially hold in their hands and drink it. What you had before was like kind of criminally small. Like they're paying $7 for a size extra small. And then this would also give you an opportunity to do some overlap. They're on diet, well, the economy's not good, you need to give them more. And we'll also fix the ovals. So how do you make sure that the oval is in the right perspective, right? So instead of trying to draw an oval straight up, you can start by drawing the rectangle shape first. So using those parallel lines, you'll draw it however big you want that cup to be. So maybe the cup would be just about this big. Zoom in just a little bit. And then you can use that shape. Let me go a little higher. There we go. You can use those corners to kind of guide yourself like, hey, am I doing an equal enough shape, right? Let me shrink that a little bit more. Because the cup is tiny as you've professed. So you can always do like an X just to give you a little bit more guidance. And you're gonna use, okay, is this spacing equal on all sides for this oval? And that way you'll be able to double check like, hey, whoa, I did not make my cup round enough, right? If you're lazy, you can also go for an elliptical tool. You can go, okay, using this tool, is my elliptical, you know, the right size? Shape. Right, like you can always adjust like that also if you're feeling like you don't want to work so hard. Oops. Let me use a different color so you can actually see it. So yeah, like you use an elliptical tool in order to create an ellipses for yourself, and then just, you know, duplicate it on top so that you're sure like, hey, oh shit, like this is not the right perspective for my cup, so let's fix it real quick. And as such, this is also not big enough, because how are you supposed to wrap around it if it's like that small, right? And already your cup kind of looks a little bit more solid because we fixed up those ellipsy issues. So all the ellipses in that same height are gonna follow the same size, same shape. Don't go changing up the ellipses, not unless you're doing some weird warped perspective. If you had wanted to make it more dramatic, so if you don't want to have so much blank space, let me hide some stuff real quick. So if you really wanted to dramatize it a lot more, oops. So you can still keep that really far perspective. Keep that still really far perspective, but this time we're going to change the straightness of the y-axis. So we're doing some math here. In doing so, this is going to change up how your table looks. So you can still do, you can still keep your table like this, right? Only difference is now the table legs are going to be more warped this way, and you get that Yu-Gi-Oh like do vibe. Like, I'll make it a little bit smaller so that people can vibe. Yes, so then your table is like here, then you can have your character go do. I don't remember what your character is. You have your turtle. Let me make a turtle. A really rough turtle. And then you can have another character right here to make it more balanced. Exactly. Yeah, and then you can have another one right here, and then like if you don't like that, you can push back the character over here a little bit. Other option instead of this perspective, right? You could go even more top down if you go crazy top down like this, or yeah, so this is an option for exaggerating your perspectives. You can even push it even more if you wanted to. So edit perspective. You can even push this more like that. So you can do even crazier, and do even more top down if you really so choose. Because I would imagine for your play mat, you might want to have something a little bit more simple, not like crazy simple, but it like something more easy for your eyes to look at, especially when you're putting down your cards. So you could do this. You could keep it simpler. You could do something where it's like you're in the perspective of one of your characters, and you're the hands of the characters, and then you have your cards like right here, and then you could have like a top-down perspective of, I don't know, is that a boba drink or something? You could do the cards laying here, your cards laying here. You could have another character's hand right here, some more cards in the corner. That's also an option for you to make things, make your card mat, your play mat. It's up to you. I don't know if you've thought about colors just yet, but we can talk a little bit about like color options that we could do. Do you want to do more like, I don't know, multicolored, or do you want to do more of like a theme colored? So those are some questions you might want to ask yourself while you're working on it. If it's like this, then you'd probably maybe put the bookshelf over here instead, like bookshelf with all the stuff, just so you're not bumping into anyone. Pastel, yeah, that might be a fun color scheme, but yeah, just figure out how you want the composition first before you freak out about any of the colors, otherwise you're gonna go crazy. I think that should cover it in general for like composition wise. Anything else like you were wondering if I had any other ideas for like content maybe? I don't know. But if you don't have any more questions, I'll move on to Greta's first, because hers is perfect in line with this month's tutorial. I will jump into hers. Let's see, let's do perspective. More perspective. Let's see what the heck that is in the background. What's behind Miku? I'm like highly confused about what this is supposed to be. Is it a shadow? Is it half finished? Heck yeah, you can submit it next month so we can see what direction you decided to go with, and then we can start talking about like color choices, how to refine the composition, and maybe like how to beef it up, etc. So we'll work on Greta's now. We'll come back to Misu's in a hot sec. Let's give him some time to walk the dogs. Who's that Pokemon? Who knows, man? I don't know what this is, but it bothers me how dark it is. But let's jump into drawing some perspective lines, because that is how we make sure that things make sense. So if we're establishing this character is this tall, and this is our horizon line. So you're basically gonna use your horizon line, so whichever is we're expecting to be like the tallest part of the land, the flattest part. You use that as a reference to connect to any of your other characters. So I don't know if we're supposing that Miku is maybe a little bit shorter than this character. Even if so, Miku's got to be a lot bigger. Let's see how we can do this. Okay, so supposedly, even if I put the perspective vanishing point over to here, she's gonna... She would have to be like so much more to the side if that's the case. So if we're trying to say that Miku's like right here in front, I would probably expect the vanishing point be a little bit closer. How do we connect this? Yeah. Let me expand this a little bit so we can work with it a little bit. I'm not actually going to change the composition, it's just for the purposes of our perspective line. Okay, so replacing the horizon over about here. So it connecting the character. That's if she's like standing a little bit further in the same plane, but it seems to me that Miku is standing way closer to us. Like she's standing somewhere there. Right, she's standing somewhere there, so I would imagine we'd have to play it a little bit closer. Is that how tall, how big she is? Let's see. Yeah, in that case, we're gonna have to make Miku's head taller. So a lot of times when you're doing this kind of perspective, the character in front is going to be a little bit taller just because that's how the vanishing point works. So like it always goes from tall to short unless you're like suddenly this person's like a lot taller than Miku, which I don't think is true. So we'll make her a little bit taller just so she feels like she's closer to us. And this might not necessarily be like the most accurate kind of perspective, but in terms of composition, it works better because it's going to draw your eye towards the other stuff. And it's going to give the illusion like, hey, they're much closer to us. The only thing that really matters like to make the perspective look good is like if we're talking about like another character that's like right here, then obviously we'd have to make sure that they're, you know, the right height. They're not, you know, suddenly like humongo like this, like the same, their head is like this big and then... Yes, because it is summer, it is July, and I'm roasting out here. I hope everyone is getting their hydration in today. Let's see, she's got quite a bit of other references in here. Yeah, if we're looking at this particular reference, like this is the head, right? So yeah, it would vanish like that. If you wanted to do a very far but the same, what's it called? Is that the x-axis? Or the z-axis? Like the same continuous direction, right? Not the up down, it's the back and forth. These characters, if we had done like much farther away, like characters like this, then they're gonna sit a little bit different along that plane. So I would probably add some more people into here. Maybe, I don't know. I would at least add another person here to help make this perspective that you're going for feel more believable. And I don't know who you would add, but just a suggestion. You could also consider adding some more people in the background over here, and you would just do that by using references of your other characters. So if your other characters are like right here, right? And that's assuming they're the same height. If they're not the same height, then obviously it's not going to follow this rule. So we could have someone running. Woohoo! It's a really shitty running, okay? Put them on the bottom over here just so they don't bump into Miku. And then do some more people in the back over here overlapping. Because this is a beach, there's probably way more people with like umbrellas and stuff. And they're all going to sit lower than all these people up here because they're supposedly closer to us, so they're going to be a little taller. All these people in the back are going to be slightly shorter. Depends on how far they are from us. If they're a lot farther, if they're say like, you know, right here. I think another thing that bugs us is just how flat the shoreline looks. It's not giving the right perspective, because when you have it so flat, it kind of assumes like you're doing a different shelf of plane. So I'm gonna make it a little bit wobblier so it kind of looks like just the coast rather than okay, erase or add rather than a different plane. So what the heck? Oh, there. Yeah, so we are gonna add some water, coastline. And I would say, honestly, when you're at the beach, the sand does not stop at the supposed pavement. There's sand everywhere. And it's gonna make it feel more natural, and you'll get rid of all that gray color that you have everywhere. It's like so boring with gray. Okay, let me crop back in, because you really don't need to see all that. Oops. Go back. Load, please. Let's go. Okay. So just by adding some more people, it's helping you create the illusion of the perspective. this the right? No. And if I'm being totally honest, you could push it even more this way to help frame the picture better. That way she's gonna look like she's really, really close to us. It's not perfect, but it could work. Because if it's this small, you have a lot of empty space on this side, doesn't frame your picture well enough, so we'll make it a little bit bigger, because if you look at like this picture, right, like basically filling up this space. Where is your water? Your water. I would also just shrink this down just a tad bit. So hiding that. Actually, no, I'll keep it that high. Then your clouds. It's such a missed opportunity to use your clouds to help you frame your picture a little bit better. So feel free to use your clouds kind of to draw the attention of people. So you could create like cloud shapes where it's kind of more leading towards the middle of the image, rather than just keep it like these blobs here and there. Right, so something like this could be cool. You can have like bigger clouds, you can have huge swooping clouds that fill up your whole sky. And then you would just add more shadows here and there. That's an option. You could use it more on the top to kind of bring your eyes towards the middle. It's up to you. If you're gonna have it on the top like this though, you definitely need to have something else on the bottom just to help make it look less empty. So you could do like a land mass. So we're gonna push it to a blue greenish color because land might be more greenish color. But in the atmosphere is gonna get kind of warped to blue. Right, like you could, if you wanted to make it look like it's closer, you could choose to add more actual greenish colors into it. And it's going to look a lot closer to you versus if I had it just those bluish colors, it's going to look a lot farther away. And that's the thing with atmospheric haze. Depends on how you want to kind of lay out your islands. If you want to kind of break up the monotony of the blue in the background, I might suggest you like just add a few islands here and there. So you can just block it in. Like just block it in right here. It'll be a little bit taller than the waterline, obviously. And you can have some tiny rocks, space them out, different size rocks. And then just lock the layer and then add some random textures. Right, like you could add some greens back into the environment so it's not so boring. In the sand, you could also do some seashells, you could do some rocks, some buckets, some floaties. etc., etc., so it doesn't feel so plain. Where the heck is Misu? Not Misu, where's the heck is Miku? There it is. And then there might be some people in the water, I guess, I don't know. We'll take the pinks and all around the sand. Sand fun. You could do little pink floaties. You could do pink floaties, you could do like a bucket, super far away bucket. It's also your opportunity to go crazy ham with all the random color umbrellas. So umbrella. Oof, let me how to organize this. So umbrella here, umbrella here. Eek. Where the heck did the... Oh, there it is. So you could do umbrella right there, more umbrella there. We'll change the colors, I promise. We're just kind of laying it down so we have an idea. And you could have some tents, I don't know, whatever other stuff that could make this picture more interesting, right? So just play around with like the color and just go ham, because the beach is usually very messy, very colorful. So some other colors that you might want to use, you could use like, I don't know, green, right? Green umbrella. Bring back some of those greens. You could do like an orangey color. Or if you don't like orange, you can go for purples. And then maybe you could do bring back some whites here and there, just so things don't look so too colorful. And then I don't know how you want the focus to be. So if you want the focus to be Miku, then we're gonna have to darken up the carts over here. Color overlay, we'll put like purplish. Something like that, and then your ice cream cart, where is it? That one. Okay, something like that, and then I'm just gonna put things on top right here. I'm gonna put some shadows, so you have an idea of how you might go about lighting this scenario. Yeah, I don't like that purple. Yes, we'll do more of that bluish color. It's gonna look better. So something like that. I don't know if it'll be top down. Top down might be fun because then you get to play around with the shadows of how the umbrella is going to cast a shadow. And then you have people here, people here. something like that. It's not amazing, but it will do for our purposes. For Miku, let's exaggerate the size or shape of her ice cream. Can I combine some stuff? I'm gonna combine some stuff just to make my life easier. So ice cream, so sad when the scoop is so small. If we want to make it seem like it's actually melting and spilling over, make the ice cream a little bigger. See, even here, the ice cream's bigger. Make it spill over. Right, spill over, and then add some other colors to it. Don't make it so boring. And opportunity missed to add cyan sprinkles. And crazy colors for your ice cream. I would even go as far as to make this ice cream a different color because it's just so too monotonous when it's like the same color. See how that's gonna make the ice cream look so much more interesting. This is your chance to play around with desserts. Make yourself hungry. And then let's fix this cap. So the cap is technically the right angle. Let me see. Let's do a different color. Okay, so I'm basically drawing like this rectangular shaped thingy just so I can kind of see if like everything is lined up. Let me see if there's a better color. It's green. Can I see better? Kind of. And then you're gonna see like, hey, the corners don't really match that well. So what I'm basing it off of is the angle of her head right here. So I'm drawing the line based off the angle of her head. So I think it might need to be pushed in a little bit more on this side because there's so much less space on that side. So let's go ahead and fix it up a little bit. And when I look at a visor like this, it gives me the impression that it's a very flat visor, when in reality a lot of visors are very much like this, like slight slant, if I'm not wrong. Slight slant. So we need to kind of create that slant for ourselves. So this part of the hat needs to go like this. And we gotta bring the end further down and then this part further up to create the illusion like, hey, it is curved. So we'll go ahead and try to fix it right now. So if we're not sure about what the heck a visor is supposed to look like, let's see, Clear visor, clear visor. This kind of has the angle we like. Let's see if there's any other ones. Not really. Okay, let me shrink this screen so we can use this as a reference to make sure that we get that curve that we're missing. And then in that case, we're gonna move her pigtail a little higher up so that we have space for it. And I'm pretty sure Miku has like crazy fat pigtails, like almost inhumanly possible. And then her hair shouldn't be more tapered to her neck because it is pulling from her scalp into those pigtails. There you go. And then make her bang more dramatic, more dramatic. It's so fat on this side, it should match on this side. Make it more pointy. Dramatize it. And then because you have it so far to the left over here, we gotta make sure it kind of matches on this side, how far it gets to the, so she looks like she's looking towards us. Oops. Give her eyebrow just a little bit more shape, so it should wrap around her face. So this part where the temple of like the side of your eyebrow kind of curves, it's gonna slant more, versus up front it'll be a little bit flatter. And then just be careful about how far you make the chin, especially in this angle. It's turned and her face is kind of looking up like that. You're not going to see as much protrusion. If you want to make it look like she's looking, you know, we're looking from down below, we get rid of a little bit of the line so that it's going to give us that illusion. And also shrink down her jaw just a teensy wince. Okay, missed opportunity to go ham with the accessories. Miku is very heavily on the accessories. I'm gonna make this a star or something, I don't know. Star for starfish. And then just to fix the perspective of her bikini strap, if you're gonna look up, if it's gonna look like we're looking from below her, this part probably should wrap around her shoulders better. So instead of going straight down, her shoulders exist right here, so we gotta go around it. And then you can do whatever you do to make everything look put together. Let's still check our perspective. Maybe we'll make her a little bit taller just to make the perspective feel like it's going closer this way, the vanishing point. So I'll make her a tiny bit bigger. Just a teeny bit, not that much. Okay, so before, after, a lot of perspective changes, and then it helps you frame the picture better when you have Miku's a little bigger, and then your characters all follow this imaginary, like, oh, they're gonna get a little bit smaller as you go down. I talk a little bit more in depth about the perspective, how to figure it out in the tutorial, so use that. There's also just not a perfect 100% mathematical way to measure it, not unless you want to do all the math and like figure out exactly where are your vanishing points. I feel like that's just too much brain power for me when I'm drawing environments or like multiple figures in an environment. I kind of just go off of general rules and general ideas and use reference points, like establish one character as this height or this particular spot and use that as a reference for everything else. So let's go ahead and finish off today with Misu, and we'll talk about how some shapes that you can do for your gesture drawings that might be a little better. Expand. So good job for writing down the prompts on the sides. I think this is fine, like nothing wrong with it, because this is meant to be like practice for you to understand like, hey, how do the angles measure out exactly? But if you really want to like try a different method for this one, try not to just look at, hey, this is an arm, this is an arm. Try to look at overall line. So instead of just imagining like, hey, I'm trying to draw one line from the spine. Where is it? It's this one. Bye bye. So instead of just trying to draw, hey, I see an arm, I see a leg, and etc., I'm trying to identify, can I see any bigger overarching curves for at least this first exercise? And that's going to give you a little bit more sense of overall pose, so you're not kind of having this kind of disjointed figure. So when I'm looking at this, I see a big curve right here. Even if it's not exactly a perfect continuous curve, I'm going to treat it as such when I'm doing my gesture drawings to simplify it enough in my head that, hey, I'm like, I can go faster, right? I can transpose this pose. I can be like, hey, one single curve, this is for your arm, and to another arm to another arm. And then you can kind of divide this up like, hey, along this curve, how far is the head on this curve? So if this is the halfway of the curve, you'll see like, hey, the shoulder hits there, so maybe the head's going to be a little bit higher up right here. And then using those reference, you can be like, okay, now I have another curve for my spine. Do I have any other big overarching curves that I can see? Not quite for this one, so we'll just go ahead and draw the curves where you see them. So this might be a curve from the leg to the foot, right? So that looks kind of like a continuous curve. So I'm not going to worry about trying to draw a foot separate from the leg. I'll just draw one single curve and call it a day. Same for the other side, another curve, and then from that curve, right before this one ends, I'll come back down for the other leg. So already you can see like, hey, this is gonna give me a little bit more idea of how I should go about when I'm trying to do a gesture drawing so quickly. And as you do more of these, you're gonna get an idea of like, hey, this is about the angle that you would typically draw this pose. This is how you would typically simplify this pose. And this is like the proportions between these things, right? So this would be good enough for like your 40-second thingy. For these ones, some tips and tricks that I usually do in terms of simplifying stuff. So while I say I want you to use the least amount of lines, if it takes you more lines at first, go ahead and do it. Don't feel like you're limited. So gesture drawings aren't meant to be like, have to be perfect. This is a very good start. Some things that we could improve is how to connect your limbs better to the body. So when I'm thinking about the gesture drawings, I'm going to start with placing my head first, because that's going to give you a bit of a guideline for where everything else. And then I'm going to start by maybe drawing the spine first. And that's going to give you an idea of like, hey, where does the whole body go? And then from the spine, is there any continuous curve? Which is where this exercise kind of comes in. If there are any existing curves, then we're going to go ahead, create a teardrop shape for that whole arm, right? So your whole forearm can be simplified as a very long teardrop shape if you can imagine it. Your hand can be this weird triangle shape. Then as we're going, for sure, your shoulders, you got the right idea of, hey, it's a circle, right? Right, circle, and then we're gonna go ahead and create the curve of the arm, similar to how we did the curve of the overall spine, overall curve over here. And again, when I'm creating the arm, I do long teardrop shapes, triangle shapes. And if I can, I'll go ahead, circle for the shoulder. I'm more concerned about whether or not you capture like the overall shape of the arm, rather than like, hey, I want you to get the muscles correct. So you can use the circle for the arm, go ahead, use your long teardrop shapes, and you can fill in the gap for your biceps and everything using a curve. So as long as we get that fat to skinny, that's going to read as an arm. So not necessarily have to draw every single muscle. So moving from the shoulder, you're gonna see what's the fastest route can I get to the other limbs. So maybe from the back to the legs, I can do one single curve to another leg right here, a foot, and then close it off. Like, I'm not worried about like drawing the other side of the leg. If I can just draw this side of the leg and it still reads as a leg, that's fine. So if I were to do this particular gesture, I typically start with the head. I'm gonna go to the spine, go with the leg, then make my way back up, finish off the arm, finish off the hand, do the shoulder if I have to. Figure out just like the idea of the arm. I'm not worried about like, hey, it has to be, you know, it has to read completely as an arm. Then from the arm, the next closest thing is the spine, and then that way you can kind of loop back to the leg. And if you don't end up drawing every single thing, that's fine. Like, it's not a huge deal, because gesture drawings, again, is just meant to loosen up your hand, get you going, get you moving. And the reason why I kind of force you not to lift up your pencil is kind of to make you stop thinking so much. Rather, I want you to draw like what you see and see how you might move your pencil so you can reach other parts of the body, reach other parts of the pose. Let me see if you did any of these other ones. So yeah, this is not that bad, honestly. You're getting the idea of like the angles and everything, the proportions. I just want to challenge you to try to think about the poses as a whole now instead of just disjointed. So like, you're very good at drawing your skeletons, like, oh, the arm goes here, legs go here, right? You need to start now thinking about big entire poses. So when I look at this pose, I'm imagining, oh, I can kind of draw like this imaginary S/C shape for the whole entire body, I can imagine I can draw like this whole entire S shape. So once you're able to kind of visualize those more for your poses, you're gonna get a little bit more fluid looking poses. Your figures are gonna look more natural looking. So same for here, the leg, I'm gonna simplify it as an S shape, right? Like it's not necessarily an actual S, but when you exaggerate the curve, it feels a little bit more fluid, a little bit more like in motion. So if I were to draw like the gesture, I'd go ahead, start with my whole entire spine, go ahead with the triangle, and then we're gonna go ahead, see if we can use that curve that we created, and then start fleshing things out. And then you can erase away things that you don't necessarily want anymore. So it's just meant to give you a warm-up. I know you hate gesture drawings, but it's like a very good practice for you to learn how to draw more intuitively and to draw faster, because oftentimes when you're drawing in real life, like when people are just walking around, sometimes you're gonna run out of time very fast. So it took me a long time just keep drawing people like in motion, drawing like different ways, exploring like different ways to draw a figure using really quickly, in order for me to kind of develop that fluidity that you need in your gesture drawings. So don't feel bad right now, Misu. Like I would say even now sometimes I'm like really shitty about drawing figures more dynamically, and it's because I don't practice enough of my figure drawings. So if you have the chance, when you're going out on the weekends or whatever, and you have a notebook and you're free, just try drawing people. Give yourself a time limit, like for each person, like no more than say 30 seconds or something. See how much you can capture when like from their pose or from whatever they're drawing, so that you're getting a little bit more practice of like, hey, I'm gonna try to draw intuitive rather than trying to mathematicalize whatever it is I'm seeing. Yes. Yeah, like I think because you focus so much like in the past on like getting anatomy correct, so like a lot of like the beginnings, like trying to make sure that everything is correct is like, oh, I have to make sure that the arms are in proportion like this, and that's fine for when it's just a standing pose. But when bodies are in motion, a lot of times a lot of like the poses, the figure, the limbs, everything kind of gets exaggerated a little bit. So definitely is a matter of learning to see big lines of action. So for at least this challenge, I kind of want you to focus more on big overall poses. So see if you can find overall curves, overall action lines. Like for this one, overall action line that you might see for this one. Her spine, her leg, right? And then the other one. And then can I see the angle of her shoulders? And then that way everything will kind of fall into place once you get like a general overall action line. So see how that already plays into your pose. Like I haven't even done the hips, I haven't done a head, but it kind of reads as she's leaning backwards. So that's the part that you're missing. So try to focus on that for this challenge. Don't feel bad if you don't feel like you have the energy or the motivation to do this part. It's fine. I feel like this part of the exercise will be very, very good for you in learning how to see overall action lines. And then after you feel like you're really comfortable with the flow, the line of action, then you can kind of jump into this where you're sort of forcing yourself to apply what you're seeing into the actual figure pose. So hopefully that was helpful. If not, I guess we'll come back to it again next month. And we can see how we can break down the figure even more. If you don't like the whole action line, like this part, you can always try the whole scribbly fill in the skeleton, the shadow blurbs that I talk about, because that might even get rid of even more of like the hesitation that you might have with like, oh, I have to do the features like this. So like you can totally do it like this where, hey, I'm doing a big blob, and just start coloring. And as you're doing this, you may not realize it, but as you're doing this, your hand is gonna get more familiar with how figures are supposed to be proportioned out and how you're supposed to draw it out. So it's not perfect, and it's a low stake kind of way for you to practice your poses. Because you can kind of visualize like, hey, is my arm in the right spot? Is my leg the right thickness compared to the picture? Rather than like have to see like, oh, I have to draw it this thick, which in a particular like section, like if you're focusing on just the arm, it might look right, but when you zoom back out, you're like, oh shit, you know, it's like humongous. So specifically for Yubisu, if you don't feel like you're benefiting from this, try using this method where you're kind of doing the shadow one after you're done with this, just so you kind of get more practice on making things feel more natural for the poses. So yeah, feel free to bring back more challenges next month, but I'm gonna finish editing the video today, tomorrow. If I have the energy, I will stream, or probably won't stream. Anyway, I will see you guys next month. Hopefully everything was good today. Hopefully you get some ice cream now. Have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.